I never thought I'd be the kind of person caught up in one of these HOA horror stories, but here we are. I've lived in Sycamore Estates for nearly 7 years, and up until recently, it was a quiet, pleasant neighborhood. Our homeowners association, the HOA, handled community matters, and when I first moved in, their rules seemed perfectly reasonable. Keep your lawn trimmed, avoid tacky decorations, nothing outrageous. That all changed last year when Patricia Wilkins, now infamously known as Karen, became HOA president. From day one, Patricia made it clear she wasn't there to uphold community standards. She was building her own little empire. Every morning, she'd patrol the neighborhood in her white Lexus SUV, clipboard or notepad in hand, inspecting every house like a drill sergeant. I'd seen her crouch down to measure grass height or take pictures of minor infractions. I managed to stay off her radar until I decided to install an in-ground pool in my backyard. I did everything by the book, submitted the plans, got approval from the architectural committee, obtained city permits, every I dotted, every T crossed. The pool was completed just before summer, and to celebrate I hosted a small barbecue for a few co-workers. Nothing crazy, 6 adults, a few burgers, and some music on a Saturday afternoon. Around 4 p.m., I noticed Patricia standing at the edge of my yard, snapping photos with her phone. I waved politely. She just glared and walked off without a word. That should have been my first warning. 3 days later, I found an HOA violation notice in my mailbox. According to Patricia, my pool was an unauthorized water feature exceeding acceptable recreational facility dimensions under Covenant Section 12.4. It was absurd. I had written approval from the previous board. I called Patricia to clear up the confusion. The previous board was far too lenient, she said, dripping with condescension. I've reviewed your application and determined that the dimensions exceed the limit by 5 inches. You'll need to modify the pool or face daily fines of $50. I tried to reason with her. You can't just retroactively change approved plans. Modifying an in-ground pool would cost thousands. The old board signed off on everything. Rules are rules, she replied curtly. You have 14 days to comply. Then she hung up. Frustrated, I contacted 2 other board members. Both confirmed that my pool was fully approved and that Patricia was overstepping her authority. They assured me the issue would be addressed at the next board meeting. I figured that would settle it. I was catastrophically wrong. The next morning, I left for a 3-day business trip. Before leaving, I double-checked the locks and activated my home security system with cameras covering the backyard. When I returned late Thursday night, I was exhausted and went straight to bed. It wasn't until Friday morning, coffee in hand, that I stepped outside and froze. My pool was completely empty. At first, I assumed there had been a leak or a pump malfunction. But when I checked the equipment room, I found evidence that someone had manually overridden the system to drain the entire pool. Then I remembered the cameras. I pulled up the footage on my phone, and there she was, Patricia, in broad daylight, entering my backyard with what looked like a pool maintenance crew. The video clearly showed her directing them as they connected hoses and equipment to my pool system. The timestamp? Wednesday afternoon, the day after I left town. I was furious. This wasn't HOA enforcement, it was criminal trespassing and vandalism. I called Patricia immediately. "Oh, you're back," she said coolly as if we were discussing the weather. "Since you refused to address the violation, the board took action on your behalf." "The board, or just you, Patricia?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. "Because 2 board members told me my pool was compliant." "Well, they were mistaken," she snapped. "As president, I have emergency authority to remedy violations that affect community property values." "You trespassed on my property and damaged a $40,000 installation," I said. "I have everything on video. This isn't an HOA issue anymore, it's a criminal one." Patricia actually laughed. "Good luck with that," she sneered. "The HOA bylaws give us right of access for remediation. Maybe next time, read the fine print before moving into a covenant-controlled community." Then she hung up. I immediately called the police, non-emergency line since it wasn't an active crime, and explained the situation. Officer Rodriguez arrived within the hour. At first, he seemed skeptical, suggesting this might just be a civil dispute, but that changed the moment he saw the footage and my approval documents. "This isn't civil," he said firmly after reviewing everything. "This is a criminal trespassing and vandalism. The HOA may have limited access rights, but draining someone's pool without authorization isn't one of them." While the officer was still at my home, I received a text from my neighbor Thomas, who serves on the HOA board. He was shocked and confirmed there had been no vote or discussion about enforcement action against my pool. He even forwarded an email thread showing that the HOA's own attorney had told Patricia to drop the issue, since my pool was properly approved. Officer Rodriguez advised me to file for a temporary restraining order against Patricia while the investigation was ongoing. He also suggested documenting all damages and repair costs for my insurance. Before he left, he gave me a small but satisfying parting comment. "We'll be paying Ms. Wilkins a visit today to get her side of the story, but based on what I've seen, she's looking at serious charges." I spent the rest of that day calling contractors for estimates to refill the pool and inspect for possible structural damage. The total was approaching $2,000. Thankfully, the pool company said there didn't appear to be any permanent issues, though they couldn't be sure until the pool was refilled and the system ran for at least 48 hours. Around 6 p.m., my phone rang, a blocked number. I answered, and to my mild surprise, it was Patricia. Her tone was far different this time. The confidence was gone, replaced with a faint tremor. "I understand the police visited you today," she began, her voice unsteady. "I just want you to know there's been a misunderstanding. The board did authorize remediation for non-compliant water features. I can show you the minutes." "Interesting," I said evenly, "because I have an email from the board's attorney explicitly instructing you not to take any action against my pool. Thomas also confirmed there was never a board vote. So, tell me, are those minutes you're referring to real, or did you fabricate them after the police showed up at your door?" There was a long silence. Then Patricia sighed. "Look," she said, her tone softening into something that almost sounded conciliatory. "Perhaps we can resolve this privately. The HOA can cover the cost of refilling your pool, and we can just put this unpleasantness behind us." "I'm afraid it's too late for that," I told her. "This isn't about the money. It's about you abusing your position and breaking the law. The police have the evidence now, and it's out of my hands." 2 hours later, Thomas called with news that spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Patricia had been arrested. The charges included criminal trespassing, vandalism, and filing false documents. Apparently, she had indeed fabricated those meeting minutes after the fact. She was released on bail but ordered to surrender her HOA office keys and was suspended from all official duties pending the investigation. The following morning, I received a formal letter from the remaining HOA board members. They'd convened an emergency session and voted unanimously to remove Patricia as president, effective immediately. The letter also stated that the HOA would cover all costs associated with restoring my pool and offered a written apology for the ordeal. But Patricia's downfall didn't stop there. The next Monday, I received a call from the district attorney's office. The prosecutor informed me that, based on the evidence, they were pursuing felony vandalism charges, since the property damage exceeded the $1,000 threshold under state law. In addition, fabricating HOA documents constituted fraud, which would be added to the case. When the charges became public, Patricia S. Real Estate Brokerage, where she was a senior agent, placed her on indefinite leave. Apparently, having a realtor facing felony property damage and fraud charges wasn't great for business. A week later, I ran into her at the local grocery store. The once imperious HOA president was now a shadow of her former self. Her shoulders slumped, her face pale and drawn. She froze when she saw me, gripping her basket with trembling hands. "Are you happy now?" she hissed. "My career is ruined. I'm facing criminal charges and my reputation is destroyed, all over a stupid pool that was 5 inches too deep. No, Patricia, I said calmly. It wasn't about the pool. It was about you thinking the rules only applied to everyone else. Now you're learning that some rules, the law, for instance, apply to everyone, even HOA presidents. She stood there speechless, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water as I walked away. The last I heard, she was facing up to 220,000 dirhams in legal fees and possible jail time if convicted on all charges. Sometimes justice really does catch up to those who need it most, even the most entitled Karen in the HOA.